The next strategy involves giving yourself a direction for the paper. We've already learned how to gather our information into an outline, but the thesis statement is the sentence that sums up the main point of your paper. This is similar to the theme in a story, and you can even relate it to the first sentence in an Oreo paragraph. Remember how everything in a paragraph needs to support that first sentence? The thesis does the same thing for your whole essay. If you have a statement of purpose, if you have a statement of what your main point is, you are more likely to write a cohesive, organized paper. The best way to construct a thesis statement is to use this formula, this 4-step process. First, figure out your topic. Now, sometimes this will be given to you, and sometimes you'll have a bit more freedom. But for this example, let's say that my topic, going back to the formal tone video, is coffee shops. Now, this is an okay topic, but we should give it an aspect, which is the second step. This means narrowing it down so the paper can get more specific. The more specific your topic is, the more detail you can include and the more interesting you can make it for your reader. So to make this more interesting for my hypothetical reader, I think I want to write about independent coffee shops because I find that to be a more interesting angle than writing about Starbucks or Caribou. Independent shops each have their own personalities, and you can find a lot more to write about there. Also, I want to narrow the scope of the paper a bit, so let's make it independent coffee shops in Minneapolis. So by giving it this aspect of independent as well as in Minneapolis, I've narrowed down my topic from coffee shops to a specific subset of coffee shops. Figuring out an angle is the next important step in constructing your thesis statement. Now, we have a specific topic, but how do we want to approach it? Because right now we just have a subject, and I need a specific way about how I'm going to approach this, how I'm going to make the paper interesting. There are several ways to do this. Are we giving directions about how to do something? Are we reporting events? Are we giving the who, what, when, where, why, and how of something specific that went down? Are we explaining ideas, describing it, showing cause and effect, giving pros and cons? Are we persuading, discussing, refuting, or convincing? Or are we going to go the creative route and invent a story? So you see there's a lot of different angles from which we can approach this topic of independent coffee shops in Minneapolis. You can add your angle by adding verbs to your topic, because right now we only have a subject and we need to add some verbs to give it some life, to give it some action. For our purposes, I'm going to go with a persuasive angle and convince my reader that there's a clear best independent coffee shop in Minneapolis. So this turns my statement into what is the best independent coffee shop in Minneapolis. This is something you could definitely write a paper about, kind of determining which one is the best. But because I'm taking the persuasive angle, because I need to have a perspective on this, the last step in figuring out your thesis statement is to determine your point of view. This is where you make a stand. This is where you declare your perspective, and this is where you defend your decision. And you've already seen my point of view in the formal tone video. 5 Watt Coffee is the best independent coffee shop in Minneapolis. By adding my perspective or my answer to the question, I have used this formula to construct a strong thesis that I can easily use as a foundation to a good essay. Notice how it's still a strong statement without personal pronouns, to refer back to formal tone again. If you live by this formula, you will never go wrong in giving your papers ground to stand on.